Lu Ping, the ninth prince, was abruptly awoken from a peaceful nap by a sudden jolt and a sharp pain in his back. Dazed and disoriented, he lay sprawled on the ground of his secluded garden pavilion, the spot he frequented for rest after long hours of reading. As he began to process what happened, a burst of mocking laughter rang in his ears. Looking up, he was met with the smug face of Princess Lu Qiang, his older half-sister. Lu Qiang stood over him with a self-satisfied grin, casually, reminding him that if he was in pain, he no longer had the right to sleep there. Lu Ping, still trying to gather his thoughts, remained silent for a moment. The hammock he'd been resting on had collapsed. The book that had once shaded his eyes now lay on the ground beside him. His loyal eunuch Da Sheng knelt nearby, visibly trembling. When Lu Ping questioned whether she had kicked him, Lu Qiang confirmed it without hesitation. With a resigned sigh, he asked her what she was doing, addressing her by name. She immediately barked at him to use the proper title, Royal Sister. Knowing better than to argue, Lu Ping forced himself to suppress the pain and addressed her with reluctant respect. Lu Qiang, a product of imperial favor and indulgence as the daughter of the emperor's beloved consort, had grown up pampered and arrogant. Her sharp tongue and dominating demeanor made her one of the most feared among the emperor's children. Despite her condescending attitude, she found herself momentarily unsettled by Lu Ping's appearance. His sleepy eyes, soft voice, and delicate expression gave him an unexpected charm. For reasons she didn't quite understand, she reached down to grab his chin, an act Lu Ping instinctively pulled away from. Annoyed, Lu Qiang scolded him for looking at her with those eyes, and cruelly commented on his looks, implying that he was born merely to seduce others. Unsurprising, she said, considering his mother had been a lowly servant. She made it clear that just because they shared blood, she would never see him as her equal, let alone a brother. Lu Ping, calmly and politely, asked why she had come to disturb his rest. Her answer was simple and arrogant. She'd been in a good mood, wandering around, until the sight of him ruined it. She felt fully justified in taking out her irritation by kicking him. He was baffled. Even when resting quietly in his own courtyard, trouble still found him. With a sigh, he picked up his book and made to leave, but Lu Qiang demanded that he stay. She began mocking his meek personality, sneering at how unprincely he appeared, and accusing him of making her look like a bully simply for waking him up to study. Though Lu Ping remained indifferent, his silence only seemed to agitate her further. As Lu Ping sat quietly, a rough touch brushed against his cheek, the calloused fingers making his skin itch. Reflexively, he slapped the hand away, causing the book tucked in his sleeve to slip and fall to the ground. The man who had touched him stood tall and imposing, his presence almost overbearing. But rather than reacting with anger, the man simply laughed and remarked on how messy Lu Ping's hair was. Caught off guard, Lu Ping realized the wind had indeed mussed his hair, but the stranger's casual action of touching him was far beyond what etiquette allowed. Embarrassed, Lu Ping quickly tried to fix his appearance and once again extended a jade pendant, clearly meant to signify identity or sincerity. Yet the man ignored it completely, choosing instead to stoop down and pick up the fallen book. Selected poems, the man read aloud, clearly more interested in Lu Ping's belongings than returning what had been offered. Lu Ping held his breath, tense under the gaze of this unfamiliar nobleman. Before he could speak again, a group of young noble sons on horseback arrived, chattering and laughing loudly. They teased Lu Ping and apologized simultaneously, claiming they had mistaken him for someone else. They expressed gratitude for the return of a jade pendant, though it was clear their words carried a mocking tone. The man who held Lu Ping's book didn't seem inclined to stop flipping through it, treating the contents with casual disregard. With growing frustration, Lu Ping politely asked for his book to be returned, only to be met with deliberate stalling. The man dismissed his request, showing no urgency at all. Again, Lu Ping extended the jade pendant, only for it to be ignored once more. The laughter from the others continued to grow louder. One of them called the man Yan Ren, jokingly, scolding him for teasing Lu Ping too much. Another noted how red Lu Ping's face had become, teasing that he couldn't handle the attention. The rest joined in, some even asking Lu Ping which family he was from. His looks, they said, were too memorable to forget. Mortified, Lu Ping realized that his face was indeed burning. The man, Yan Zikeng, finally stopped flipping through the book and asked Lu Ping to recite the poem he had been speaking earlier. The others took the opportunity to egg him on, saying that if he recited it, they'd give his book back. With everyone's attention on him, Lu Ping's mind went blank. Flustered and overwhelmed, he scrambled to recall something appropriate. Finally, in a soft, trembling voice, he began to recite, "Yearning for the imperial land, springtime outing, apricot blossoms fall upon my head." The crowd quickly noticed the mismatch. It was autumn, not spring, and they jeered, demanding the next line. But Lu Ping, now fully aware of how out of place and vulnerable he felt, could only cling to what little composure he had left. The servants were in a flurry of activity as the young master returned home late at night. He had gone out in the morning on horseback and returned by carriage, the scent of alcohol trailing behind him. Though they suspected he had been drinking, he stepped out steadily, his demeanor composed. When they rushed to prepare hot water and sobering soup, he waved off their concerns, assuring them he was not drunk. Zhang Yun watched him carefully, noting that although his gaze was clear, the bao scent of wine still lingered heavily. Yan Ren inquired whether Madame Zhang, his wet nurse, and Zhang Yun's mother had already gone to bed. Upon hearing she had, he expressed relief, knowing she would otherwise scold him at length for drinking. Inside the courtyard, Yan Ren moved with his usual confident grace, his steps light on the stone walkway. The servants followed silently, awaiting further instruction. Once inside, he removed his hairpin and loosened the binders around his arms. As hot water was being prepared, Steward Zhao brought up another matter Madame Zhang had recently mentioned, a new imperial decree. The emperor had ordered the selection of promising young noblemen to attend the prestigious Baihu Hall alongside the crown prince. She hoped Yan Ren would apply. This caught Yan Ren off guard. He had nearly forgotten the imperial selection. Although it was a great honor, he had no interest in scholarly pursuits and much preferred martial training like his father. Still, with his parents far away in the northern borderlands, he knew he had little choice but to respect Madame Zhang's wishes. Before he could respond further, Steward Zhao brought up another issue. A servant had been behaving suspiciously. Upon searching him, they found a silver ingot. The servant was now kneeling at the door, his forehead striking the ground as he begged for forgiveness. When questioned, the man admitted he had been approached by someone earlier who offered him silver in exchange for information about Yan Ren's whereabouts. The man had inquired specifically whether Yan Ren had entered the palace and when. Pressed further, the servant revealed the visitor had shown a palace token and claimed to be of noble status. What shocked them all was the man's final statement. The visitor said that someone within the palace held affection for Yan Ren and had sent him to ask about his schedule. The entire courtyard fell silent, save for the sound of crickets. The maids and servants averted their eyes, while Steward Zhao and Zhang Yun were visibly stunned. Zhang Yun coughed awkwardly, clearly trying to hide his discomfort, while everyone else stood in frozen surprise. As dusk descended, Lu Ping's palanquin departed Danfeng Gate and made its way through Guangjai District, finally stopping in front of the northern marquise's residence in Ruan District. The sky glowed with the remnants of sunlight, and the faint stars barely peeked through. Lu Ping glanced outside, thoughtful. His attendant, Da Sheng, approached the gate bearing a crane-engraved token, but before the guard could respond, Steward Jay rushed out to greet them. With a polite smile, Steward Zhao explained that the young master, Yan Ren, was not at home. He had gone out earlier to celebrate the Qixi festival in Pingkang District with young Master He. Lu Ping nodded and said, "That was no problem. He simply wished to return something to Yan Ren." As he reached into his sleeve for the double rabbit pendant, Steward Zhao quickly refused, saying he dared not accept anything on his master's behalf. Since it was a personal item given by Yan Ren himself, it would be more proper for Lu Ping to return it directly. Reluctantly, Lu Ping agreed. The palanquin changed course and headed for the lively streets of Pingkang District. Though the ninth prince usually preferred quiet places, there was something about the bustling energy of Pingkang that intrigued him. He often found solace observing chaos from a quiet spot, such as a balcony in a noisy restaurant. But he figured Yan Ren, unlike himself, probably thrived in such excitement. Eventually, the crowded streets forced Lu Ping to disembark and continue on foot. He told Da Sheng they should head to Yuren Tower, suspecting Yan Ren might be there after overhearing girls gossiping about a tower competition. Even if he wasn't, it would at least be entertaining. Yuren Tower hosted a lively tradition during festivals, a competition in which noble youths and wealthy heirs stood in 3 towers. The crowd below would scramble for personal items or trinkets tossed down by the young masters, earning a chance to climb up and drink with the person who threw it. Tonight, however, the competition had taken a flashy turn. Excited cries erupted through the street as copper coins began raining down like petals. The crowd surged toward the towers, pushing and jostling to grab the money. From overheard conversations, Lu Ping learned the center tower was occupied by Fu Yi, Duke Fu's second son and the empress's nephew. The west tower held He Shinbai, son of the prime minister. The two were clearly competing to see who could attract the larger crowd. Curious about the events unfolding, and wondering where Yan Ren fit into all this, Lu Ping continued forward, preparing himself for an encounter that might be far more chaotic than anticipated. Lu Ping had no memory of how he returned to the palace. Da Sheng later informed him that after leaving Yuren Tower, Lu Ping had become so intoxicated that he lost all awareness. Da Sheng had to support him for an extended period as they wandered around Pingkong district before finally securing a carriage to transport them back to the palace. Upon arriving at Kangju Court, Lu Ping collapsed into bed and fell into a deep sleep. The following day, when he attended his studies at Baihu Hall, he still suffered from a throbbing headache. The wine Yan Ren had been drinking was indeed potent, far stronger than the fruit wines typically served in the palace. In the subsequent days, Lu Ping refrained from leaving the palace and did not encounter Yan Ren again. After Bailu, the White Dew Festival, Baihu Hall in the imperial city officially selected over 10 sons from the aristocracy and imperial family to commence their studies. Yan Ren was among them. He entered the palace early in the morning, passing through the Vermilion Bird Gate and then the Jiafu Gate before reaching the Eastern Palace. Inside the study area of Baihu Hall, new desks were already arranged neatly, with palace attendants standing on either side. The Grand Tutor had yet to arrive, and except for 2 or 3 empty seats, the hall was already filled with students. Yan Ren chose the seat in the farthest corner, where he happened to spot Fu Yi sitting just in front of him. Fu Yi was the Yaoi, second son of the Duke of Fu. His father was the emperor's brother-in-law, and his aunt was the empress. With an elder brother inheriting the title, Fu Yi held a unique position within the imperial family.